Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to share a game that I played in the Cardinal Open. This is in January of 2018, and I played in the under um, under 1800 section, which is a tough section for me. I was rated about 1560, and was I'm pretty sure the second lowest rated player in the section, if not pretty close to that. And I ended up going even in the tournament. Um, so I did have one win, two draws, and one loss against all pretty much 50 to 100 points higher rated opposition. So very happy with my result, even though it was just an even score. And I'm going to share with you my one win. This is a very interesting and long game, and with many phases. So just a fascinating game, and definitely want to. Not only that, but I'm learning a lot from this game, especially from the end game of it. So okay, let's get started. My opponent played e4, and what did I play? You guessed it, d5. I love the Scandinavian. This is the only time I got a Scandinavian in the tournament. He took, I took, and I'm going to go through the opening phase quickly. So knight f3. Now here, what I want to do is start playing the lines with bishop g5. I know this is critical because, well, white's idea here is they'll probably delay the development of this knight in an effort to get in c4 prior to developing him. And when white gets the pawn duo in the center on d4 and c4, I feel like those are difficult for me as a Scandi player, because white has more space and more control, and, well, like what happens in the game, I get a bit cramped. So, okay, I didn't play bishop g5. This is something I'm going to be looking at for future, though. Played knight f6. And this is totally fine still. d4, c6. This is actually still theory, c4. And, yeah, queen d8. So this is a testing line. Bishop e2 is played. And now bishop f5. Want to get my bishop outside the pawn chain. Knight c3 behind the c pawn. And e6. All right, now my opponent chose a slow move, a3. Knight h4 is definitely better here. This is a typical idea to harass my bishop. But he played this. Now the computer wants me to play h6. I certainly considered this so that if knight h4, I have a nice little square for my bishop on h7. The reason I didn't is, well, especially in slow games like this, I get wary of lines where maybe black plays, or I'm sorry, white would play like bishop e3, queen d2, and look for sacrifices on h7. I was planning to castle kingside still, but I don't like to play h6 right away if I can help it. And I don't really mind the structure so much where the bishop is captured by the knight, and it opens my h file. So, okay, so I played bishop e7, just developing. I could also go to the square. Might even be a little better. He castled, queen c7, h3 now. And now I decided to play h6. Rook e1 was played. Always a good move, just lining up with my king on the semi-open file. I played knight bd7. And he played bishop e3. What's interesting is d5 is possible right now, but I don't think it gets white much. So, like, let's say he played d5, and this is what I was looking at through this whole phase of the game, is you don't want to allow d5 generally, and I do have it sufficiently defended here, so I'd probably take, and we would just have a bunch of trades, basically. And at the end of it, the queen ends up on the d5 square. But, I think, and it's hitting the bishop, but I think I just play this. Queen probably retreats, and after I castle, I don't think white's gained much here. Surely white must be slightly better, but I'm okay with this position. So d5 isn't like a huge threat at this point. So probably this would be premature is what I would call this. All right, so I castled here. And he played rook c1. I don't really understand rook c1. I think he's just x-raying my queen. So that if he plays d5 and I take, then he'll have pressure down this file. All right, so I played knight b6. Computer doesn't love this move, and neither do I looking back. I don't think the knight's well placed here. But I was just overprotecting d5. He played b4. And I played rook a to d8. So, all right, you want to x-ray my queen, I'll x-ray yours. He played queen b3, getting out of that. And now I brought my other rook over. This move's fine. d5 is not possible because I have it defended by the knight now as well. So I don't think that works out. All right, he played rook e to d1. So kind of an interesting choice to take the rook off of the semi-open e file, but I think his idea is to double on the d file and then push d5. At least that's what I thought during the game. So knowing this is his plan, I thought I should take the time to get my queen off of the c file before it would open. So queen b8, and he played rook d2. So he's going to double. Bishop f8. Honestly, I feel like the position is closed and there's not much I could do. So I was spending a lot of time trying to find a plan, but probably it's best for me to just shuffle and wait for white to do something. I mean, I don't know though. I remember during the game I was a little worried about a plan like a4 and b5. So maybe he should have did that. Okay, but bishop f8, rook c to d1. So he's applying pressure down the d file, but it didn't feel overwhelming. I do have my rook defended, so there's no, I don't know, so it's not like I'm in trouble if this file opens up. All right, and he moved his rook away, so I brought my queen back up to c7, and he played bishop d3, looking for a trade of the light square bishops. This almost always benefits black in the Scandinavian. This bishop can be awkward, so I wasn't too upset to trade. Rook takes d3. And now I had to make a decision. So this knight is not well placed. This is a terrible piece. And it actually, if you look, it's really hard for black to move at all. Yeah, computer's calling for like moving the knight back, which is what I do. Also bishop e7 and knight c8, so it wants to reroute the knight. I consider this as well. The problem with playing this move, knight bd7, is that I really need to make sure d5 isn't working. But I calculated, and I don't think it does. So we can look at this again really fast. So like just d5, c takes d5. Knight takes, knight takes. Computer's saying queen takes, but probably this would be more likely. Yeah, and then knight b6, and the point is my knight is not pinned. I do have the rook sufficiently defended, and I don't think so due to that, this is going to cause more trades, and I don't think this is going to add up to anything for white. Yeah, I would just take. Yeah, so this is a pretty equal end game or middle game. So d5 isn't going to get him much at this point. So that is why I was able to play this, because I took the knight off of the d5 square and also blocked the rook at the same time. So I had to be really sure that d5 wasn't an issue here. And yeah, and then my opponent made an interesting decision that I feel is a mistake. Computer doesn't, but I really felt like he allowed me so much play after this move. c5. Um, oh, my opponent was rated 1640, by the way, and I was rated, yeah, 1572, so a bit higher rated than me. I didn't expect him to play this. It just looks like a bad move. I mean, I have my knight in d5 immediately. I definitely want this. So, he took, but now I get an improved pawn structure. You know, I felt this is good for me. My rook is on the e file already. So this was a welcome trade for me, even though the computer says white's still slightly better. I do think I have to watch for this b5 idea still, which he actually doesn't go for in the game. Yeah, in fact, the computer's saying b5 immediately. So that is what I was concerned about. Instead, he played g3 with the idea of playing bishop f4, which is actually a really good plan since normally I like to play bishop d6 against this, but that's not an option. I play g6. So, yeah, what do you notice about white's position? Well, my eyes were very much drawn to this backwards pawn. Um, I really felt like I was even a little better here, although the computer says that's not true, because I can pile up on this weakness, and my bishop's going to go from being a bad piece to being a pretty good piece on g7. So g6 was just an effort to fianchetto, and bishop f4 is played. I actually only have one move here, which feels weird, but it's totally fine. Queen c8, rook e3 was played. And now, should I take the rook? Well, computer doesn't think it's necessary, but I actually like the fact that if I take, and he takes with the bishop, his bishop is not good here, and if he takes with the queen, I can play rook d8 and win a tempo. So I thought this was fine. So I did trade. He does take with the queen. Rook d8, tempo move. And now I have a question for you. Where should he move his queen? And where should he not move his queen? In the game, he chose to put his queen on d2, which I actually thought was a bit of a mistake. The reason being, I have a clear path for my knight. He's going to come to f6 and into e5. And with the queen on d2, I'm going to win a tempo when I sink my knight into e5. So I think that's just a slight mistake. Also, in addition to that, I still think this b5 idea has merit. So I was nervous about the queen going maybe here or to b3 in order to support this push. So, but he did not do that. He went here. I'm not exactly sure why he chose that square. It's not obvious to me. Maybe he wants to move his knight and be able to defend this, but in that case, I still like the queen on c1 better. So anyway, it's fun looking at moves like that, like where does the queen belong? All right, and after queen d2, here I go. I want my knight into e5. My play felt very natural at this point. Yeah, and I could have snatched this pawn, huh? I wonder if I could. I considered that in the game, that when I move my knight, I am hitting this. Okay, so king g2, so he defended it, and now knight e4. All right, was I calling this e5? Sorry about that. All right, so the knight into e4, and now, again, I really feel like he should go to b2 and threaten b5, but he went to c2. This is probably fine, though. Well, it can't really be bad. All right, and from here, I put my bishop on g7. Queen f5 is a thought. It's what the computer wants. I don't really like it though necessarily. All right, bishop g7. So maybe I'm not seeing something. Bishop g7, hitting the weakness. Now keep in mind that my moves are coming natural, but white has some juicy outposts as well. So, his bishop could come here. That's a little bit intrusive, to say the least. Also, the knight can come into e5 and force me to trade my bishop if I want to get rid of him. So white has a very good amount of play as well. All right, so he actually does jump his knight into e5. And now I've found an interesting idea. g5. I only push the pawns in front of my king if I have a concrete idea. But here I definitely did. I felt like if the bishop retreated from here, it may not ever be a good piece again, at least not until b5 is played, because all his pawns are on dark squares. So I just felt like this was good. But he did surprise me here. He played the move f3. Computer says it's not good, but I thought it was good at the time. It was difficult to figure out what the correct move is here. So pretty complex position. And I did decide to take the bishop. This is actually correct. And then he plays f takes e4 as planned. But now I have a good move that I missed. So if you'd like to pause your video, do so, and then I'll share what the answer is. It's pretty obvious, I think. It's bishop takes knight, with the idea being that I'm going to win a pawn. I mean, even just taking with the rook is totally fine. And if he should take here, we take here. So this is actually winning for black. But instead of that, I'm a little disappointed I missed it. I decided to play d takes e4. And this is actually a little bit of a mistake because I don't win a pawn now. He took with his queen. Then I played f6. I was actually really surprised that he played this move. I did not expect it. All right, so he took here, allowed me to take the knight, and I thought for sure I was just winning here until I saw this idea. D takes e5. So very interesting. My opponent is down a piece, but now he has these two connected pass pawns. And so we have this interesting imbalance where he's going to try and prove that his connected pass pawns and his more active king are compensation for the piece and better than my bishop or equal to my bishop. And yeah, my bishop doesn't feel like such a good piece right now. So even though I'm up a piece, I don't know what he's doing necessarily, and I was nervous for sure. So I responded to this with queen e6, just trying to blockade a little bit. Notice that he can't play this move because I would take here, and this would be a good position for me. All right, and he played rook d3. So, yeah, I'm actually wondering if he could play rook d6 immediately. I don't even know if I was worried about this move in the game, but I should have been. I did not see it. I was more focused on whether I could get away with this. But I think that's probably greedy. All right, so he played rook d3. So what is his idea here? Maybe just defending the pawn. All right, and I played... Yeah, computer does want queen a2 check. But that just allows his king to come up more. So I wasn't really into that move. Instead, I played rook e7. Not sure why I played that looking back. I'm really not sure at all. I think I wanted to challenge the rook. But this does allow a very good idea. It allows rook d6. And this, in fact, would draw the game. Fascinating that it does. But I'll show the continuation because it's pretty interesting. So like queen f7, and the queen can come into g6 now. Pretty much got to take, I think. I could go here. Queen e4, it says. Queen e8. Yeah, I don't know. This is just difficult. What do I do here? King f7. Yeah, computer says it's a draw. He just has really good control of my 6th rank, and the king's going to come up, and he still has these connectors, and he's going to always have checks against my king. So like if I move my bishop at all, like bishop f8, he can just start checking me. And apparently it's a draw. So I'm really glad he didn't find that move. It wasn't obvious to me during the game either, although looking back, that looks like an excellent move. I definitely should have saw that was possible. Okay, it's rook e7, and he decided to check me instead. This move I did calculate and thought it was fine. I just go back, and to my surprise, he took the rook, which I was actually happy to see. I felt like if I ever trade queens, that I'd probably be better, or at least equal. And I realized I should be pushing for a win here, but I was down on time compared to my opponent, so I wasn't opposed to getting a draw against a higher rated player. All right, so in this moment, he played e6. So this is his idea why he traded rooks. Here I played queen e7. Queen g6 was played. And now I thought for like 10 minutes because I know that in the end game, you shouldn't offer a trade unless you're 100% sure that it's winning for you. And I really wanted to play queen f6 here. I just felt like that was the move. But I have to know what happens after queen takes, bishop takes, and king up to f3. So is that position winning? So if you'd like to pause your video and decide if I can trade queens here, do so now, and I'll let you know. Okay, and after I thought 10 minutes, it wasn't entirely clear to me, but I thought my position was still good and that I had winning chances, but I would at least hold. So I actually did play this move. And what happened to my continuation here? Oh, I didn't play it yet. My apologies. I played king f8 first. He played h4. I thought this was a cute move because obviously if I take it, checkmate. So luckily I didn't fall for that. But it turns out this is the top computer move as well, this h4 move. It's not a move that I understand. I just thought bringing his king up is probably better. I don't know. All right, and now I play queen f6. So my apologies for asking that earlier. But yeah, we're going to trade. Because if he does take, I was looking at this move. Computer says king e7 is better. Oh, the other move I have is take. Bishop takes h4 is interesting. But, you know, I have to be careful about these pass pawns is the thing. So I liked this, and I figured he might play something like this, and maybe I have this kind of move. I thought this had to be good for me. If he plays b5, I can take. King e4. And I do have control of this square, which is nice. It says bishop d6 now. I would probably play king e7 though. And I was happy with this position because I won this other pawn. I definitely want to play h5 and lock this pawn on a dark square where maybe my bishop can get it later. And sure enough, this is winning for black. So if you said a queen trade was favorable, then good job. That's correct. All right, let's get back. I lost a spot in the game. All right, queen f6. So he decided not to trade, and he thought a long time as well. And then, you know what they say, long think, wrong think. His default move, he told me after the game, was that he meant to put his queen here, but here my opponent blunders. He moved his queen away and undefended one of his critical pawns. So a very sad part of the game. I took the pawn, and I thought, okay, I'm winning, and you probably think the same thing. But my opponent still has tricks from this point on, so kudos to him for playing very strong in a losing position, because I definitely have some troubles here. All right, so he brings his king up. I'm going to bring my king up now, king f7. Mind you that the best move right here is h5. I missed this, because if I don't play it, he can play it, and this pawn will be on a light square. This also would shoulder out his king out of this square too. So, I'm sorry, king here. All right, and he played a4. And a4 is probably a mistake. Well, it definitely is a mistake, because now I definitely want to trade queens. So this does allow queen g6 check, which forces a queen trade. And black is definitely winning here. b5 was played. Okay, and here's something I wanted to talk about, because my thought during the game was my 3 pawns will hold off these 3 pawns, and I can just be active with my king and maybe pick them up with my bishop or something, and I should be just fine. Turns out I was wrong about that. These 3 pawns can still create a pass pawn, and I failed to realize this. I already saw that I couldn't really take. So if I take with my pawn and he takes, then he has this move. That definitely creates a pass pawn. Is this move c6? Because if I take that, he takes back with, and he has a pass pawn. And if I ignore it, he pushes. So this is already unnerving, but I figured no problem. I just won't take, and everything's fine. So I brought my king up some more, and now the move a5. I was like, what is he up to here? And honestly, I really probably should have took on b5 now. But let's see what happens if I do. I guess here he can play a6. Now he's threatening to make a pass pawn. Yeah, and if I push, it's a pass pawn. Same thing. So he's getting a pass pawn. So this is something I want to personally study, because I had no idea this was coming. And it was just pure luck that my king was 1 square in time to stop the pawn, as you'll see. So, okay. So a5, I played bishop d4, looking to pick up this pawn. And then a6. Yeah, and suddenly he's going to get a pass pawn. If I take here, he takes here. And let's see. So maybe I just shouldn't take, huh? Oh, if I don't take, he goes here. So I pretty much have to take. And he played this, and I was just horrified because I was not expecting him to be able to create a pass pawn. And now I do have king e6. There is another move here for black that I didn't see during the game. I thought king e6 was forced, but it's the move bishop e3. Fascinating, right? It looks greedy at first glance, like I'm just going to ignore this. But the point is that if he pushes, this comes with check, and I'm going to win the pawn. So that would have been nice to see. But instead, king e6 is fine. I mean, black is still winning, but has to be very careful. White still has this pawn. White has this. And white's king can still come in a bit. There's also this check at any moment. So, all right, king f3, h5. Love this move. I finally fixed the pawn on a dark square. And then he played f5 check. This is probably strong. Note that I cannot take, because that would be a huge mistake and white wins. So luckily I didn't do that. I saw that king e7 was correct, and is the only move that still wins. He comes in with his king, but now I play the move bishop f6. And I loved this move too. And I'm basically saying to white, you're going to lose your pawn, and I'm going to have 2 pass pawns, 3 actually. And my king is going to defend against this, and there's nothing you can do. Also, my bishop is always here to stop this pawn from advancing. So basically I said, with bishop f6, I said, what are you going to do? You're lost. And this is where my opponent resigned. So I was really happy to get a win. Sure enough, it required a couple of mistakes. I would even call it a blunder when he lost his pawn. For sure, in order for me to win, but that's no surprise, right? But all in all, I'm happy with how I played this game. I don't think I had any horrible mistakes or anything, and I learned something valuable with these 3-on-3 and how you can sacrifice a pawn to create a pass pawn there. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and have a great day. Thank you.